So I did schooling. It was, I think it was like a year and a half, I think was the whole thing. And just after a year, the school went bankrupt and closed the doors. Pretty much, you were done. Shut the doors. We're done. So I never got to finish. Um, by the time they went bankrupt, I had already gotten, while I was going to class, I took my A plus. I mean, you know how it goes. What do you take? Your A plus, your networking plus. I think I had those two. Yeah, CompTIA. I had those two when the school shut down. And again, maybe the drive inside me, nobody telling me. I mean, I could have quit right there. I could have said, oh man, woe is me. The school closed. I could stop. I really enjoyed learning and working with computers. So I didn't stop. I studied myself, and I went in and took, was it 3 or 4 tests to get the MCITP, Microsoft Certified IT Professional, Windows 2008 server back then. I was like 3, 4, 5. I can't remember. It was a decent amount of tests. I wasn't going to stop. So I had the books already from school.
Mm-hmm.
I just studied myself, took the tests, and passed them. And my last one, the one that got me Server 2008 Administrator, was the day after the marathon bombings in Boston.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I had the test all signed up, and I got to drive into Boston because it was the only place that I could take the test at the Pearson View or whatever the testing facility was. There wasn't any place closer to me. And I said, I drove all the back roads because all the main roads were shut down. They were still looking for the bomber at that time. And I got in there and I took the test and I passed. And that was the last test that I took before applying for work.
Did you end up applying to a few different places before you landed with us,
Yep.
or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but one of the main competitors of the company that we worked at pretty much threw me out the door.
Really?
I went in for an interview. I drove. I do want to mention that my wife had landed a job in New Hampshire, and we actually purchased our first home before I even had a job with that company.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the house. She was working out of it. I was still kind of moving back and forth doing construction in Mass while still, taking those tests and doing the computer thing. And we had the house, and then it was just, job application mode, sending out anybody in the area just to get my foot in the door because I had no experience. And I think,
That's the
that's
toughest
a big
thing, man.
it's a big red mark on when someone's interviewing you. It's like, what am I supposed to go by? You have no experience, and all I had was my certifications. And I mean, I guess the one good thing, I mean, I had, you could say 2 jobs, 1 or 2 jobs. They were kind of, both construction, my whole life. So that was a big thing that, at least he's committed to what he does.
Right. I'm surprised that they turned you away because I worked for them as well, coming out of school, and they were very into certs, right? Because that's how they qualify that to their clients, etc. I mean, I came out of school, I didn't have any certs, but I guess they looked at the degree and they're like, well, let's give this guy a shot. But one of the things that's getting the foot in the door. So I myself, I graduated with a computer engineering degree, but I didn't quite like the engineering side of things. I didn't want to sit and do math all day, really. Like, that just wasn't what appealed to me. So actually 2 years into my career, I'm like, well, I'm not going to start over because it's a lot of money. So what I ended up doing was that I ended up gearing my internships more on the sysadmin side. So I ended up getting my computer engineering degree, but at least when I came out of there, I had some experience in IT, right? But the interesting thing was that, man, when I came out of school, I made more in my internships than I did when I first got out. And thinking back, a lot of people would have looked at that number and been like, well, I deserve more than this. But for me, just like you, was like, I just need experience so I can
Yeah.
get somewhere with this. Because I mean, it was significant. Like one of my last internships, I made like $24 an hour, and that's in college. And when I came out and I landed my first job, I was making $13 an hour. So like that's a huge difference. But at the same time, I'm just like, I just need that knowledge. And to be honest, man, I think that a lot of kids coming out of school would have looked at that and not accepted the job if it was offered to them.
Yeah, that's, you know what, that's how it's been, and I think that's unfortunately how it's always going to be. I mean, yeah, perfect example. I mean, I'm going from my own, construction job. I'm making 30, 28 to 30 bucks an hour doing my own construction thing, tax free. Obviously at the end of the year you got to take care of it, but I mean, that's a lot, for from 18 to 20, what am I now? Almost 30, 30 years old. That was what I was used to making. But I never expected, I knew I was going to take that hurt, which is what, during that 5-year stint, you know what, I'm sacrificing, I'm saving, because I know eventually I'm going to get cut. And when I landed that job with you, and it was, I think I started at 12.
Yeah.
And I was willing to do it because honestly, they were the only ones willing to take me. But I mean, if anybody had offered me a job, I would have taken it because I had no experience. I needed to get my foot in the door. I knew that once I got my foot in the door, I had the potential to show somebody, I'm not this, guy showing up just to get a paycheck. I'm there to do work. And I was willing to take that. My wife landed a decent job, so it's going to hurt for a little while, on the income. But she knew that I had the drive and that eventually I was going to make it. And here I am now. It was a long, bumpy ride, but we're doing pretty well now.